What has been your worst date?
Oh, I have this one ready.
Hello and welcome back, people. We're so happy to have you join us again for another episode on the Midweek Pump. What are we talking about today, Laura?
Today, we have a very juicy topic of getting to know us on a deeper level in the world of love and dating.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. We're going to hear about some love and dating stories.
Oh, are we now?
We are. You excited, everyone?
All right, I got some questions for you.
Oh, man. Yeah, I got some brewing for me, too. Anyway.
Well, what we really wanted to bring forward was, what is dating like in this current times, and what was it like before, right?
Yeah.
What did dating used to look like 10 years ago? And in regards to what does it look like today?
Yeah.
I'm sure very different for many of us.
Really
or maybe
different.
not. Maybe you're new and you're quite living in this 21st century
True.
of the new modern world.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to start? Because I can definitely share.
Oh, I know you got a pocket full of shares.
Pocket full of shares. No, but legit, I will say, dating now for me compared to dating before is like, there's just more intentionality when I date now.
Yeah. Okay. I get you.
Do you know what I mean by that? Like when I used to date in my 20s, I wasn't like, I want to be in a relationship and I want to get married. And I was just kind of like a really go with the flow kind of girl. That's what I mean by intentionality. Whereas now, it's not that I have this like, I want a relationship and get married necessarily right there for me. But what I have when I date now is like, you know, are the qualities in this person like the qualities that I would love to compliment me in my life? Like that's there.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas before it was like very just loosey goose.
Well, that's very mature and adult life way of looking at dating, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Right?
I mean, I think essentially that really does happen for most of us is that,
Yeah.
you know, we get to a point, or those who have been single for the later part of their life, then they get to the point where it's like, no, it's more responsible, intentional dating, right?
It's such a good way to rephrase it. Yes. Yeah. I love that.
But also I had a different experience than you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear that. So like in your younger days, you were intentional?
Oh, in my younger
That's
days,
so
not
interesting.
maybe necessarily as intentional, consciously intentional. So there's a difference there, right? Yeah,
100%.
consciously intentional. I was intentional very much so in my 20s of dating that I wanted to like have a big picket fence and like, you know, the dream life, and wanted my husband, and I wanted to have kids like right away.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
So as much as, you know, 20s were fun and full and it was a very vibrant years of our life, dating for me was a very big priority. It was a very big concern. Like I wanted a husband, I wanted kids, I wanted a house.
Yeah.
And so that really comes with what dating was for me back then, you know, dating prior to the 21st century. I'm not going to... No, we're not that old. But you know what I mean?
We're not that old.
No, we're not that old. But that comes with all, you know, I'm sure many of us can recognize that comes with, you know, what we grew up with, what our parents' generation grew up with, and what are those ideologies in regards to creating your life and your life partner. So I adopted that really quickly, and I think to my 20s, as much as they were fun and, you know, risque, vivacious, all of like the colorful words you want to put in there, I was definitely, I wanted like my husband, I wanted like kids and stuff. So that was my focus. It really was.
So interesting. We're like opposite right now.
Yeah. We're very much twins in other parts of our lives, but this might be very different in how we went through.
I think though, like I know we'll touch on this for sure throughout this episode, but I think for me, like I really didn't know myself the way I know myself now. Like I hadn't really done any work, any personal development.
Truth bomb.
Right? So like I wasn't aware and mature in the way that I am now, and like
for sure,
where I have like a different headspace now in life in general, right? So
I hope you're mature.
I think I'm a little bit more mature, but anyway.
Well, yeah, I think definitely anybody, you know, going through past their 20s and is dating will have much more maturity in how they're going after in their dating life or significant partner as you wish to create that.
Yeah.
But let's look at some of the ways how it's so different from what it was back then.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh, guys.
So I think there's a lot of different like topics we could talk about here. We could talk about like pre-pandemic now post-pandemic and or during pandemic, and now kind of like still in pandemic but different, right? We could talk about like online versus not online. There's just
there's so many different variables.
So many variables, right?
Guys, do you find this? Do you see the difference that our world has vastly changed in what dating looks like for us?
Yeah.
Completely.
So I think like if we're gonna go pre-online to like online, for me, what dating was like before was like I would meet guys when I was out, like, you know, out in the clubs, out in the restaurant scene, out in the bars. Like obviously I'd approach guys or guys would approach me, and like that's how I'd meet people, or I would meet people through friends. You know, where it was like somebody set me up or whatever. There was like somebody in a party or whatever, something like that, right? So like that was dating before, was like you just meet people when you were out, like all the time, I found.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you on that. Now, did you actively, like when you were going out, know that you were actively going to be looking for a guy?
I'd be on like a hunting mission. I'm like, I'm hunting today. Who will I catch? It was so like,
but like
when I think of that mentality now, it's like, oh God, Laura, like what was wrong with you? But legit, I'd be on a mission.
But I want to just bring forward, like, this brings, you know, a complete different landscape, I think, in regards to how we used to go out.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll take it back, you know, in actual timeline of, let's say, 10, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, let's call it, right? 15 years ago of actually dating. In our world, we would go out and we would have that anticipation that we're going to go meet somebody.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to, I will say, share now, like, we're going out. Yes, we're going out to enjoy the time and the moment and be with who we're being with, it, whether it be friends or family.
Yeah.
But there's no that extra layer, like that excitement, like, oh, I might meet somebody today, like, in that environment.
Yeah. I think it's like a different energy now where it's like, I'm not necessarily out to like meet somebody, and yeah, I have goals for myself for sure, but I don't have this, even when I'm going out with girlfriends or with you for dinner, I'm not like, who are we going to meet tonight? How many guys are we going to speak to tonight? Like, that's not there for me. It's more so like, let's see who we attract by being ourselves, or like, let's just see what the night brings, you know? It's like more of that. Whereas before, yeah, it was just like what you're pointing to is like, we would be on missions.
Now, Laura, would you say that is part of maturing as an adult in the dating life, or would that be a change of like the dating scene and the dating landscape?
Good question. I think it's a combination. Because I think when we were in our 20s and like the scenes that we were going to meet these people, it's kind of like everyone was doing that.
Yeah.
So you just do it, right? Yeah. And again, like you said, like growing up with this mentality of like finding your partner so early or whatever it was, right? And I mentioned it wasn't like necessarily a super like defined goal for me, and I still was like on a mission, you know? Yeah. But now I think with that, the combination of like different scene, different, you know, age and maturity, and also again, like having a different self-awareness of like how to create my life.
Yeah.
I think that's why there's a difference in my mentality.
For sure.
Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think it is a combination of both. But I'm very aware and conscious that our world has changed vastly in just the way we operate and just the way we in physical functions, you know, it's very different, right?
Yeah.
So how we now pursue dating is on a different landscape.
Yeah, totally.
But I kind of like to look back at a little bit of the fun ways that, you know, you used to date, right? 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, I'm sure maybe it might still be present now, but very far and few, let's be honest. It's like, I remember when a guy would come pick me up to go out to dinner or on a date. Like they would come and literally walk up to the door and knock on the door to say I'm here.
I know, like that was so...
But you know what? You know why there's a difference in that? Because now it's like, and this is giving, you know, an example to like current times is exactly what's actually happening. Is like now it's like, hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes, come downstairs. Or like, come outside.
Because of condo life.
Not even condo life, but it's like we have the convenience of our phone, and it's like our phones also eliminate some of that physical interaction or like the communication, as opposed to like he's gonna come to the door and like open the door and be like, hey, I'm here now, as opposed to, hey, I'm in front of your house, come outside.
But question.
You know, like that was like the difference in little, you know, parts of dating before to now.
Yeah, I just have a question about that though, because this is so funny. I'm just thinking of like,
okay,
did guys actually knock on your door when you lived with your parents? Like I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I was like, don't knock on the, like I did not want my parents to like.
No, obviously, like there was, you know, some dates or sometimes I just didn't want them to know I was going out for that, you know, like that particular time frame. Yeah. But if there was somebody that was really excited about it and I was interested, or those who were very pleasantly surprising to the way they showed up, they would come and knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here, like, you know, to pick up Antonietta. And I'm like, that was like a little touch and be like, I haven't heard that of most recent.
Yeah, I know, it's different for sure.
Right.
It's different.
So I think that's where there's like a little bit of differences with dating used to like before, and now there's like so much easy convenience, quickness to the dating world that some of that little specialness has been lost.
Yeah, I know you love your romance. No, I get it. I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
What about, okay, so we talked about, you know, obviously how the landscape was and how we used to meet people before. Like, what do you see now with regards to like online?
Okay, good question. What's online?
I know you cringe with this topic.
You know, for me, I'll say it's been short-lived trying online dating. I don't get, or in my experience, I haven't gotten a lot of authenticity. And it's very, I have found that it was harder to actually connect with somebody online. It's, you know, like the messaging of like, you know, getting to know each other before you actually meet and date. So there's already a phase of where you rule out so much by just text communication as opposed to getting to know that person in the physical encounter, right? So the one-on-one. And so that was, you know, you instead of going on like 5 physical dates, you go on maybe one, or you have this one online dating conversation.
Right.
And then there's like the problem, like it eliminates so much.
So do you find like there's just not as much actual conversation that happens when you're online and connecting?
No, because yes, and I say that very quickly because that has been my experience. I say no because right off the bat, it's already like the 100 or like the 5 top questions. Like, what do you do? Like all of those questions, it's like the interview questions that has you already rule this person out. And so then it's like everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah. Another thing I'll say about online, which is so different than meeting people in person, is like when you go out for a night and you're usually probably going to meet 1, 2, 3, I don't know. How many people do you meet in a night? A few people a night? I think like in the online world, you literally have the capability of meeting like 18 people in an hour.
Right.
So there's this, I don't know if it's there for you, but it's almost like this automatic thing in your mind, in my mind anyway, and maybe in guys' minds, I feel like this is also there, is like, who else could I meet? Or like, you know, is like,
right. And that
kind of like, let's one up this or whatever.
That becomes like, you know, this slippery slope of dating and in the consciousness of, you know, what we're intentionally creating. Right. Totally. So it's like, if we're intentionally creating just to like find the next better cookie, when is the best cookie going to come?
Yeah, we want a macadamia nut today. No, I'm kidding.
A little soft macadamia, please.
But I hear what you're saying. And also, I feel like for me, something else that would come up with online dating specifically, and I just want to say too, I'm not knocking online dating. Like I've met a lot of amazing guys online. Actually, I've dated a lot of guys that I've met online.
Ooh,
I have.
Laura, please tell us.
But legit, but wait.
Laura,
I find myself, like, I kind of got jaded just from that experience. And I found myself, like, just always swiping left. Even if I didn't even like get to know somebody or dig into them more, I would just swipe left automatically because I was like, nope, not for me. Like it just became this automatic thing. It was so almost like this addictive activity just to do because it was like something to do. And I find myself not being as intentional with online dating.
Right, absolutely. So that's where the slippery slope comes because, you know, there's tons of research behind it. Which, you know, we can go into all the facts and so forth. But that becomes not intentional to like what you're actually valuing, and you just become, you know, in the swiping, and there's so many layers to this. You get into the filter of like looking at the superficial before anything else that you're actually valuing and like looking to see that.
Yeah, totally.
So, lots to talk about there, but let's move it along because there's so much that we can talk about.
I know, oh my gosh. There's like a million
Laura,
things.
I want to know what has been your worst date.
Oh, I have this one ready.
Dude.
This one, when people ask me this question, it's like, it's number one comes up for me.
Please, tell us.
So,
we want to know.
I was out with this guy once. We went to a restaurant. It was dinner time, but he didn't want to have dinner. He just wanted a drink. No big deal.
Okay.
No big deal. I can drink on an empty stomach.
Okay, but wait, did you guys arrange that you were going for dinner, or was it we're just meeting up?
Yeah, I was like, let's have dinner, and then we got there, it was like, let's just get a drink, and I was like, that's so... That's annoying. There's more.
But that's already a flag down.
To me, that's like, okay, but we're having dinner, but now you're switching it to a drink. Like, I didn't eat. That's a little weird.
Right, exactly.
Right?
That's a red flag.
100%. So anyway, it's fine. So fine. I'm having my wine on an empty stomach. No big deal. And
maybe that was his strategy.
I know, right? Maybe. But anyways, I'm not that stupid anymore. So we were talking, just having like normal, nice conversation. And he starts asking me like really specific questions about how I would want my wedding to be. And like, I just thought that was weird because I'm like, buddy, we're not talking about weddings right now already. Anyways, it was just like a little bit of a turn off. But anyway, we finished the date. We ended the date and he was like, let's go get an ice cream. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, that's nice. I love that, right? So we're walking in the complex where we were and we're standing in front of this place where we're about to go in to get ice cream. And he turns to me and he's like, Laura, before I buy you an ice cream tonight, I just want to know, will there be a second date, yes or no? It's like he was only going to buy me an ice cream if I was guaranteeing him another date.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know what? I don't want an ice cream anymore. I was like, thank you so much for the date. Thanks for the wine. And I like, you know, I wish you well. And that was it. It's not the most horrendous date story, but I just remember being like, that's weird.
It was really awkward. That's really awkward, guys. Come on. Like, this is date one. Let's get to know each other first before you're talking about the long road commitments.
Just be cool.
If you can't put up an ice cream, like, geez, what else?
It's not a big deal, but it's just like, you're saying a lot of things that then you're not following through. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Got it.
So that's that. How about you? Any bad date stories?
Oh.
I have a million, but keep it to one.
Jeez, Laura.
Keep it to one.
All right. What is my worst date story? I'm sure there's been a few, to be honest. One that sticks out to me at this time, it was in my university years. I was living in my own apartment while I was going to York University. And I remember this, I met this fellow, asked to go on a date. He said he wanted to go for dinner. I said, okay, great. So he came to pick me up. He takes me to this spot that I'm not sure if it still exists anymore, but okay. I'm pretty sure those who are in our same age group, the young and 20. But if you all remember that place, Marché.
Oh my God, Marché! I love it. Okay, so much selection.
Okay, great, cool. If you're going on a friendly walk on a Saturday afternoon for lunch,
yeah, that's like a fam
So
spot.
Marché, if any of you who are watching, was like a cafeteria type of restaurant. It's a cafeteria type of restaurant. You would go pick up your food from these different sections, and you go and sit in this middle of cafeteria style seating, right?
Yeah, right? Totally.
So we go there, and then he decides that he's not hungry. He's not having dinner. So same. Oh, we're going for dinner, but he's not going to eat. Okay. Well, I prepared myself to eat dinner because that's what we arranged. And so I ate dinner, I ate a little bit, and then he lets me kindly to take care of the bill myself. Completely fine.
Okay.
Right, because you asked me to go to dinner, and I'm having dinner by myself. Sure, no problem. All right. This is going really well. You're really showing me partnership here.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Then not only that, so what? There was something else that happened in between that, but I just remember very vividly. Then also, we went for a drive, or we went into his truck and we drove around, and he was just really bizarre. He just didn't know what he wanted to do, and he was just driving around the neighborhoods, and I was like, there was no plan. There was just no plan of what we were doing next. And then he dropped me to my apartment, and he wanted to come in, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Like, we just met. This is the first time. No.
Yeah.
But I just remember it was just so awkward, and I was like, that was a fail.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. That's whatever. Very lackluster.
Yeah, lackluster. That's
but
a good one.
For all the like bad date experiences, you must have a lot of good ones too.
I've had some good ones for sure.
Tell us a good one.
There's been definitely plenty that have been very nice and have done quite generous things. Like nice fancy dinners and nice like some flowers and so forth. And those have all been really sweet and yes, impressive. But I think one of the most memorable ones that touches my heart, which is more so what most people don't expect, is like, oh, she wants like the flowers and the like fancy. Sure, it's really nice. It's nice to go get dressed up and like play dating. But this one particular date was with a gentleman that I was speaking to for some time before we went on like an official date.
Okay.
And he took me to an Afro-Brazilian concert.
Oh, this is so up your alley.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
So we went to an Afro-Brazilian jazz concert, and we had such a great time, great music, bang on with something that like feeds my soul and energy. And then we were in the car talking, and we just had a good conversation, and it was just really great and nice. What I'll say was like the highlights, because he was so present with me in like the date. And then in the car, he pulled out a little rose that he had like in a box, and he asked me to. Your roses. And he asked, but so this was like, I'll say this was in my 20s. Okay. So I don't know if he knew that well of those little, passions of mine. But he pulled out a rose in a box, and he asked me to be his girlfriend at the time.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
And you know what? I said yeah. I said yes, because there was definitely the connection, and he like hit points that fed my soul, right? We connected. So cute. I'll say that was a memorable date.
I love it. I was gonna share another story about like one of my best dates, but now something else just popped into my mind. So I'm like really glad you shared that. Because for me, I was dating this guy once. He drove a convertible Mercedes, okay? And there was this one time we were talking, and he was like, oh, I know. I said something about like, I love convertibles, but like, can you imagine my hair in a convertible on the highway? It'd be a disaster. Like something like that. We all know how Laura likes her hair. Maybe today you can't tell because it's nice and tamed, but you know what I mean, right? So I mentioned like something like that. And then we went on a date. He drove his convertible, and he pulls this like bag out and gifts it to me. And I'm like, oh, what's this? He's like, oh, just open it. And it was like a really beautiful silk scarf. Oh. Because he's like, this is so your hair doesn't fly everywhere. So he like tied it on me, and he's like, you look like Sophia Loren. I was like, oh my God. It was like very, very thoughtful. This reminds me of like a Bonnie and Clyde moment, right? It was so thoughtful, like really thoughtful. The fact that he like thought of that and gifted it to me is something so small but really, really sweet. And the other thing he did was he remembered a conversation that we had about my favorite color, and it was the color. Like he got me that color intentionally. So to me, that's like really, that is effort. Really sweet. Brownie really points. Sweet. So that's one of my better dating moments that I remember.
Those are brownie points, right?
Right?
It's like those little points that you thoughtfully think of, to add into the time that you're going to share together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Get that stuff under control.
So Laura, what does it look like now for your dating life in regards to how you're creating it? Like, what is some of your practices?
Oh, this is good. So for me, I discovered quite a few years ago that the reason why things weren't working out for me in dating repeatedly was like, I wasn't showing up for myself, and I wasn't giving myself the love and respect that I actually deserved and desired in someone else. So I started taking on, okay, like what does it look like to date Laura? So I started putting in self-love practices that I would then be like giving myself that love to then be able to attract that partner as well. So like an example is, going on dates by myself. Like I would never treat myself to anything. I would like hate going out by myself. And then I'm like, you know what? No. Like, I remember a few years ago, I took this on. I was traveling. I was in Dallas for a conference. And I'm like, I'm going to date myself today.
Did you really?
And I went to go sightsee by myself.
Did you?
I was taking pictures. It was like so nice, right? But that's something I've taken on is like the self-love practices, whatever that looks like. There's so many, but dating myself.
Absolutely.
Very big.
Very key.
How about you?
That's been such a big practice for me that I've put into my life as well for quite a few years. And it's been about cultivating my feminine energy for the attraction of the partner that I desire. So what that really translates to is like, am I being the woman, to show up for the man that I desire? So, some practices I take on is like, what I love is, cooking with, a silk robe or nice music, putting like a nice old movie on the television, and just really creating the environment where I feel feminine and I'm acting feminine, and I'm just creating an environment that I imagine I would have my partner with me. And so that has been a practice now that I do it quite often, because I'm like, this is for me.
So good.
Because I thoroughly enjoy it, and that's the life I want to live, and why should it be just when the right partner is in place, right? So I'm going to create that in my daily life to, live the way I want to feel, and how do I want to have the environment that I want to be around.
I love that you do that too, because like when we tap into the feminine versus like the masculine energy, because we all embody both, right?
Yes.
The feminine energy is so powerful, right? Especially in the world of manifesting and creation. Like, we're creators. Women are creators.
Yeah, women are the creators, obviously. And
we're all creators, but women,
right,
we really do create life, right? So it's like...
Yeah. And so creating that feminine energy only attracts exactly, that to which you desire. So, ladies, take that on.
Yeah, take it on.
Whether
Self-love
it be,
and femininity.
Dancing around a silk robe, or maybe it's a walk to the bookstore and you're just singing out loud, right?
Yeah.
I've done that before too, because I love going to the bookstore and I love just taking in the energy of like the knowledge that's in the space from the books, right? And then you feel good. So go, sing it out. Sing, read.
I love that. I love that. What else in terms of tips, like with regards to, any guidance for others? Like for me, what I would say is, really, again, like I kind of already mentioned this, but date yourself, get to know yourself, like really have a set of values and guidelines for yourself of like what you're worth, and really like affirm that all the time, constantly, so that so that you're not just accepting anything that comes your way. You're not just like, I will take this bottom feeder right now because I'm also a bottom feeder. Like, no, right? Like, really, like, get into the practice of what is your worth, what is your value, and, what are you deserving of, what are you attracting, so that it's something that you actually, like, start to receive.
Super great.
The quality of men will completely change. So, do you have some words of wisdom that you want to leave the audience with?
Sure, of course. Absolutely. Always. So along with creating the feminine energy and, affirming, as you mentioned, I would encourage you all to share exactly that to which you desire. So it's, speak about the partner that you desire. Speak about those qualities and, share it with a friend.
Yeah.
Speak those words into existence, because our words, our communication has energy, and that actually it comes back to you.
I love that. So it's like, I'm even hearing like create accountability with people, so that you're like on track to get to where you want to be.
So if you have an accountability partner, or get yourself
wink,
one. Communicate and speak out that to which you desire of the partner that you wish to have, or that life with them. So, speak it out.
So good. I
love it. Right?
Great tip.
I know. Laura, so what is it that, the modern day woman wants now?
Yeah, I think this is a really great way to sort of round off this episode. It's like sharing with everyone, what does the modern powerful woman look for in a partner? For myself, it's non-negotiable that I'm enjoying life with someone who is always willing to grow. So like
Amen.
Yeah, do you know what I mean by that? It's like communication and being self-aware and being willing to look at like, what doesn't work in life, and how do I combat that, or how do I create things in life that help me in that area, or that support what I actually want to create, right? So like for me, it's non-negotiable. Are you willing to grow? Are you open-minded? Are you a critical thinker? Like that's number one for me. And then also like some other qualities that I obviously love are like, you must make me laugh. Like I love laughing. I love humor. So like you must make me laugh.
Laughing is medicine.
Yeah. And somebody who's very ambitious. And what I mean by ambitious is like, you don't have to be like a multi-million-dollar owner of a company. If you are, that's wonderful. But I just mean like someone who has that ambition of like doing like accomplishing so much in life, like that kind of ambition.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, would you say those are qualities that were not present to your 20s and when
totally.
you were dating?
In my 20s, these were the qualities. 6 feet tall. Still funny, still had to be funny and all that. And like, they just had to have like a job.
Just a job.
Any job.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, those were the qualities. And I think, yeah, like as you mentioned, we grow into our responsible, more mature selves and we become different human beings. And then it's just like other things come to light of what's important, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I love tall men. I definitely have a type, but like that's not the end all and be all.
That's not the non-negotiable.
That is not the non-negotiable.
Very cool.
Yeah, how about you?
Well, what is the modern day woman for myself as a powerful woman look for in a man or partner in these current times? And yeah, so from previous younger years, what it looks like today is similar, or not similar, very much so. Willing to grow. Willing to grow is very important, very key. And I say that willing to grow for also context that I look at is that, yes, we may all have like flaws, right? I think we come to this
of course.
Mature adult life that we realize, there's, we all have different things, fears and things that we deal with. But if you're willing to grow through it, right? And be a partner in that. Yeah. So what that means to me is like, I'm going to pick up on your probably fears, right? Or your, things that your battles and things that you're dealing with. But are you willing to be a partner in that? And that, lean on me and lean on each other so that we can grow through that, can be of support. And you're willing to work through that as a partner. Yeah. So that's really important. Of course, yes, continuing to evolve in personal development. Personal development helps us to evolve to our highest selves, and that's really important to me. Yeah. What's also important in the modern day woman and what I look for in dating is being present. Being present. Yeah, that's. I come across this a lot, and it's just an unfortunate thing, and it's I try to handle it as best as I can, but I find a lot of the dates and the people that I we hang out or get to know each other, they're just not present, right? Like. Can you just go into that a little bit? Like, what do you mean by being present? So, you're meeting somebody new, right? And this is also understanding what your intention is behind meeting this person and engaging with this person. So if your intention is maybe very off from what, maybe your intention is really for a different agenda to what it appears to be, then of course you're not going to be present. But if you're presenting yourself as, you're interested to pursue this person for something, fruitful or, like to build and grow, if you're not present in the engagement of that, then that really shows you actually have a different interest. And often at times, you could be not very conscious of it because you do have your own filters that are getting in the way with that. And that's where I become very gracious and like generous with people and give them, another opportunity to like, let's get to know each other. Maybe it was the first time that we dated. For sure. And you weren't present because you were maybe nervous or because you had different fears that were coming in. Sure. But if on the third time, you're not present to things that I'm sharing with you, then I can understand that you have no interest to actually who I am, what my values are, what my interests are, my passions. And it's a two-way street with both of that, right? Yeah. So being present, I think, is very important and valuable to having a solid partnership go down a road together. I think this is so important that you brought this up because I think being present goes hand in hand with being authentic. And I think that's really missing right now more than ever is like people are just in a pretend mode a lot. Automatically, they're putting on some sort of a show. Of like maybe who they desire to be, which is, I get that and that's great, but it's also like just be real, just be yourself. Because I think that's
that's so missing when you're in interactions. Like, we're often thinking in our heads so much about how am I coming across right now, or what do I need to say to look good, or whatever it is, right? So I think that's really great that you brought that up.
And I just want to add into that, because as I'm hearing you say that, is it's okay. You know, as I think very highly intelligent, conscious women, and I'm going to claim that for ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. I'm sure you find this too. It's very boring to come across those who are being inauthentic and just playing up the show. Yeah. Because we've seen the show so many times. It's very much apparent in every area of like the world right now. Like, there's just so much of the fakeness in like the show that it's boring. Like, I know the narrative of that. We know the narrative. Yeah. So if you show your authenticity right off the bat and give a little bit more of your vulnerability, then it's like, oh wow, like I get to know the real you, and then I can learn more, right? Yeah. I think partnership is about learning like who the other person is, like learning about them.
It's really beautiful. I love it.
So that's really so key. Cool. Yeah, and one of my points of like what I'm looking for as a partner is, right, you know, like showing your authenticity, vulnerability, and really just being present. Being present is like the overall summary of being present is being completely a participant in getting to know that person. So personal development, growth, being present, and you know, all the other stuff is like, you know, like the bonuses, the security stuff, sure. But it's, you know, the connection for me and what I look for is like your energy and just your, you know, your spirit. Like, is your spirit like looking at the positive? Is your spirit looking for the fun and the joy and like having like a vibrant life?
Yeah, I love that. I was gonna even say, like, for you, I know romance is very important to you, and I think that just goes to like the thoughtfulness of a person. Again, it speaks to that piece of the spirit that you love, right? Yeah. So that's so good.
So as much as we were speaking in this conversation today, you know, what I was dating like 15 years ago to today, that is still something very authentic for me. You know, I'm a hopeless romantic, where, you know, the traditional like values of romance have always been, you know, something that I've been a fan and my spirit loves to play into. Yeah. So that, of course, would be part of the getting to know each other and part of the interaction where we can play up romance, and because we care for each other. Yeah. It's not like, oh, I have to impress. No, it's like we actually care and enjoy that way of being.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I think
we've given them a lot of tips.
We've given everyone a lot, and you know, at the end of the day, have fun. Have fun while you're dating. It's not stressful. It's not stressful like a task to-do list. It's like, have fun. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the journey. It's beautiful, right?
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of what dating was like prior to now in this modern world. Yeah. And with your two fave podcast girls, Laura and Antonietta.
Oh, yeah. You know, Aunt, I'm just going to say, something I got for myself as a takeaway from this episode is when you were sharing about really being in like the divine feminine energy role, and how you actually get into like the mood of like cooking for someone, and then, you know, taking on like just being really feminine, so like dressing up and looking actually really good for yourself when you do that. I actually love that practice. And I feel like it's so valuable to know. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it's creating your way of being now, right? Be that person, be that moment. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Take it on, guys. I love what I got from this episode and a bit of what you shared. And I think it's very valuable to today, as most of us are in the current experience of online dating, is take on online dating with intentionality. You know, I'm sure, as you explained, you know, you can get caught up with swiping so much, swiping, and then you're always looking for that next cookie. So take on dating, even if it's online dating, with intentionality, because it's not the quantity, it's, you know, what you value most that you're looking for, and I'm sure you're going to have such a better experience out of it that you won't be jaded. Yeah, love that. Right? So good. All right, well, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now. You got to bump it up, don't you know? Bump it up.